Well, hello. This is another edition of the Connection Diaries. And the thing that's been on my mind is coming out of a weekend where the news cycle is so rapid and there's so much information that we're constantly being bombarded with about COVID-19 and about the economy, about people's both physical, emotional, and financial health in these times. And so I'm curious, Richard, what do you think is key for leaders when there is sort of so much swirl happening in the world? How do leaders really stand out in their organizations at times like this?
Well, Robin, that's such a great and timely question. I noticed that I have a quick flip answers, but I think this really requires a thoughtful response. And, we like to say that the first act of leadership is to be present. And although we can't physically be present with people, we can still have presence when we are with people. And I know Roger has been talking a lot about the 3 dimensions of presence. And Roger, maybe you could just say something about when we talk about presence, the 3 ways we would look at that, or that we do look at that.
Yeah, so we think of presence as the triad of cognitive, emotional, and physical, that all 3 of these are connected and playing out in our lives. And when we think of leadership in that context, it's really noticing where we're starting from as we go to lead. And so what is happening with us cognitively, emotionally, and physically. And knowing that, connecting with that before we step in and working with others.
I think, Roger, the important point there for me when you say that is that if I'm not connected first with myself, I'm going to miss a lot of things with other people.
Right.
For example, if I'm feeling anxious and I haven't managed to engage with my anxiety, I most probably won't want to deal with someone who's anxious because it's going to make me feel uncomfortable. So as a leader, I'm going to actually miss the opportunity to really hear and listen to what someone is feeling and thinking, which we know is the most effective way to begin to make a shift. So I don't know, Robin, what thoughts you might have on that.
Well, I just love that commentary, because one of the things I know that I've seen in leaders and in myself, right, is this ability to step over an emotion and actually make poor decisions when we do that, right? And so one of the things we know is that our collective decision-making power actually relies on us being clear about where are we emotionally, because if I am anxious, I'm actually making decisions from a place of anxiety, right? And I can't imagine in today's times like this, that's going to play out very well for us in our organizations. Roger.
I was just going to say, I do think part of, we're not only having the virus itself, we're having the virus of fear. And so what you're saying is so important as a leader is to be honest, is to put people in connection with the truth, what's actually happening, and then create a response that actually is more purposeful and reactive.
Beautiful.
We have a tool that we sometimes recommend, and we think right now it could be really important, and it's called an emotion scan. It's a 1-sheet piece of paper that has different families of emotions, and in that is fear, one of the big ones we're talking about now, but others are included as well. And the idea is to sit down with that and actually jot out, what am I feeling? Look at that menu of different things and be able to name it. And the importance of naming it really is to what you're both saying, is it gives us more choices. Once we notice that we're frightful, perhaps now I can say, okay, do I actually want to lead from that or not? Can I perhaps lead with compassion or openness instead of my own fear?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And Roger, you've also been doing some practice, some physical practice with us around how to make that shift emotionally, right? Because just saying I want to make the shift can be really hard. Will you share here sort of what some of the techniques, or just one of them, that we've found to be helpful?
Sure. This is one we've been using a lot in the last week. I know I've been doing it online in these calls, but we also have been doing it on our own. And it's a very short, brief sitting and breathing practice. So what I do is I find my seat, my feet square on the ground, upright, shoulders back and down. And I invite myself, and when it's others, to actually breathe. And it's a process where we inhale for 4 counts and outhale for 6. So it might go something like this: in for 4, out for 6. Do one more. In for 4 and out for 6. Doing that 3 or 4 times, a few times a day, what we really notice, and you may have noticed it just right there, and I did, is it kicked in my parasympathetic nervous system, and I had a little bit of a relaxation response. So I'm actually feeling my fear and trying to shrink it just a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Richard, Roger, thanks for your time today. We are going to host a longer conversation on the both the value of being purposely present as a leader, and also just some really additional really practical techniques for how to do that. And Richard and Roger are going to have an exciting offer here in the next couple of days to have us actually come together and practice together virtually over the next few weeks. So be on the lookout for that. Thanks, everybody.